Hello, welcome to Cryan's Chock My name is Liam Cryan, and today we are joined by 3 flute players and a guitar. We have Sean, Lorraine, Liam and John. And they're going to play beautiful tunes all the way from County Leitrim. And I hope you enjoy the show. I'm going to head off now and let them do the rest. Thank you.
thanks very much, folks. It was a nice few jigs there to start off from the man himself, the Book from the Mountain, John McKenna. And we had 3 jigs there. The Newport Glass was the first one. What was the second one, Sean?
The Mouse in the Cupboard.
And the last one, Lorraine?
And the Hag with the Money.
The Hag with the Money. I was just wondering, that last tune, that the Hag with the Money, it doesn't sound like a great name. Have you any idea where it came from? Or?
Well, I'm not sure of the history of the tune, Liam, but McKenna himself was very fond of the Hag with the Money. Because he recorded that tune 3 times.
That's right.
Yeah, because his recording career spanned from circa 1922 until his final recording session was on the 5th of May 1937. So in between that 1922 and 1937, he recorded 44 commercial sides. And that tune pops up 3 different times.
So it must have been the favourite.
Under different titles for different recording companies.
That's a good idea.
He was fairly fond of the Hag with the Money.
He was.
Wherever she came out of, I don't know. But
we don't know why.
Anyway.
But you can see why it's a great tune.
It's a lovely tune.
Yeah.
We can only speculate why it was his favourite.
Duignan, then another great Leitrim flute player. He was equally as fond of it. So he was.
Yeah. The Hag or the Money?
The Hag with the Money. Yeah.
But was it the Hag or the Money he was fond of?
Well, we have to assume it was both. Well, sure, we'll continue on with a few more tunes. Sean, you might want to introduce this set, maybe?
We'll play a few polkas this time.
A few polkas.
Yeah, the first one is, these tunes were recorded in a great duet with James Morrison. The first one is called Teddy Regans. In fact, it's the melody of the song The Spanish Lady is very close to the melody of this polka.
Yeah.
Teddy Regans.
That's right, yeah.
The second one is called Trippin' on the Mountain, and the third one is called Trippin' to the Well. All of them were recorded by McKenna, but the first 2 were recorded in a set with the great Sligo fiddler, James Morrison. It was a duet with McKenna and Morrison. And it's interesting that on the Morrison-McKenna duets, there was always fantastic piano accompaniment. Piano accompaniment back in the day was a big talking point. There was some pretty rough piano accompanists, but there were,
it was kind of hit and miss.
The technology was new at that time, and the record company wanted a piano in to fatten up the sound, make the sound a bit fuller. But some great artists, especially Michael Coleman, probably the greatest artist of them all, solo artist, like in terms of fiddle playing, he suffered hugely in that department.
He did.
But it's no coincidence that on all the recordings that McKenna done with Morrison, the piano accompaniment was exceptional.
And is that why the piano is in so popular music today in Ireland? I often wondered.
Probably.
Must be.
Yeah.
Probably. It would have had an influence on it. But my point is that there was pretty inferior piano accompaniment back in that golden era of recording, but not in James Morrison's case. It's no coincidence that in all the tracks that James Morrison recorded, the piano accompaniment was exceptional. Because he was able to write out the chords for these piano players. Don't forget this music was alien to some of these piano players. They weren't even Irish.
They'd never heard it
But
before,
Morrison was able to write out the chords and go through it with them before they hit the studio, and they were hitting the ground running. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact, you have instances where the same accompanist has accompanied a different player, and it sounded a lot rougher.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of them, I think, were contracted to the studio.
Yeah.
So they were a session musician that was contracted
Yeah.
to the studio, and you really didn't have a choice. You got the piano player that was in situ when you went in to do your recording, and great if you had the literacy to write out for them what you wanted. But as you say, Sean, the music was totally alien to them. They were
as we know,
jazz
back in those
musicians
days, they only had one go at it as well.
James Morrison was known as the professor, wasn't he?
Professor,
For that reason,
He was known as the professor for I suppose, for a load of different reasons, because he was a fantastic musician, but also he had a big school of music as well. And another reason he was called the professor, he used to apply for the top jobs in New York, the top civil service jobs. So he'd go through all the protocol, all the interviews, he'd get the job, and then he wouldn't take it. He was just kind of testing himself to see would he get the job, and then he wouldn't take it. But he had a big school of music as well, so...
Fantastic. I never knew that.
Yeah, great.
The professor title didn't go astray on him now.
Well, will we give them a lash?
Do.
We will.
Thank you.
stuff. There's a nice old swing to them.
There is.
Different in the way they play them down the south, I suppose.
Yeah,
They play them a bit faster.
yeah.
Yeah.
There must be more laid back up this end of the
I
country,
know,
are
there
we?
must have been, yeah.
No.
Absolutely. So would you like to...
So next
What
of
do
all,
we do next?
I think we're getting a solo from Sean next.
Yeah. I might play them first if I can get through them, and we'll talk about them afterwards.
Yeah.
You might join me on the second one, John.
Oh, well, Sean.
I could hit a few potholes on the road here.
So
now.
what you're telling me is to leave you alone for the first one.
Leave me alone for the first one, yeah. Because if the potholes are going to appear, it'll be the second one.
You can go to the bar and...
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Put one on, Liam.
Pressure's on now.
Who was it said pressures for tyres, Sean?
Not for flutes.
Stuff, Sean. Lovely.
Now,
Two mighty tunes. You might name them for us. And
Well-
there's a good story, I think, at least one of them anyway.
there's a great story with the two of them, especially the second one.
Yeah.
Back in 2014, well, actually, the works, look, it's a long story about the book from the mountain.
We have all day now.
It's a long
All right.
story, but basically there was a body. McKenna recorded a very important body of work, as everybody knows. But all the work started back in the late 70s, in fact, when the John McKenna Society was set up, and then Harry Bradshaw and Jackie Small produced a radio program in March 1983, a tribute to John McKenna, and everybody started talking about John McKenna, you know, this great player, and there was all these records of him out there, and they brought out a cassette in 1986. Fantastic. It was fantastic to get that out in 86 because it brought McKenna's music to a modern audience. And then in 2012, then a series of incidences happened that put a team together, and we Lorraine Sweeney and Mick Mulvey, and there was a load of people involved in it, and we brought out in 2014 through the offices of the John McKenna Society, we published McKenna's definitive story, both musically and biographically, and the title of the whole project was called The Book from the Mountain, and that was the first hornpipe I played there, recorded by McKenna in January 1925 he recorded that, and he actually recorded the second one on the same day. I played the set as McKenna played it in January 1925. But the second tune, McKenna had no name for it. That tune was published in the Dance Music of Ireland, which was published in Chicago in 1907. But it was called the Greencastle hornpipe. That second hornpipe I just played, but McKenna had no name for it. So he called it McPartin style. And when he came back to Ireland in 1938, back to a hero to the musical fraternity, because all his recordings had preceded his visit.
Sure.
But they were asking him, where did that McPartin style come out of, John, you know? And he said, well, when I was playing on the mountains, he said, up there where I'm from, on the Leitrim Roscommon border, he said, in between the towns of Drumshanbo and Drumkeerdon, high up in the mountains. He said, a big event in our lives when we were growing up was the Sports Day. And the Sports Day was always held in Cairns Field. And that's right behind now, where the John McKenna monument is now. The field behind that was Cairns Field. So it was a big deal. A sports day in those days was a big deal. There was no electricity, no radio. The radio didn't come in until 1926. This is before all that.
Yeah.
So the sports day was a highly competitive event. It wasn't just sports that was competitive. They had dancing competitions and musical competitions and all of that.
Wow, yeah.
But there was this shoemaker, a cobbler from Ballyfernin, and his name was Pat McPartin, and he was an outstanding door dancer. They used to put the door down and they'd have competitions dancing on the door. But when he was dancing the hornpipe on the door, he always asked McKenna to play him that tune. So when McKenna went to America, and invariably Pat McPartin always won the door dancing competition. Seemingly he was an outstanding dancer. So when McKenna went to America, he paid tribute to McPartin by calling that hornpipe McPartin style to commemorate McPartin's style of dancing. You know, so that's where that's the story behind that second tune.
Brilliant.
But in fact, the tune is called the Greencastle Hornpipe, published in the Dance Music of Ireland. But McPartin's style is a better.
And it's funny you mentioned the first time I ever heard of McKenna I really didn't hear his recordings until that tape or cassette came out in 1985 or 86.
86, yeah.
Because we didn't have a 78 player at home. You had no way of playing.
Who did?
No, nobody. We had a record player because records had taken over, but I'd heard of McKenna, but I'd never heard really his recordings a little bit on the radio. But that album in 1986 was great to hear his which wasn't the full collection at that time, but it was great to hear.
I think what drew people to McKenna was, you know, he preceded the recording era. He went to America before there was any talk of record. Well, there was wax cylinders, all right. You know, they were in the latter part of the 19th century. The wax, you know, the 1890s, the wax cylinders were there, and in the early 1900s, the wax cylinders were there. But when McKenna reached his peak as a flute player, it coincided with the recording studio on the 78 disc. The whole thing seemed to, and especially when the electric recording came out in 1925, McKenna was at his peak. He was 45 years of age. He was at his peak, and suddenly it went from acoustic recording to electric recording. And the sound was even better again, and it coincided with McKenna's peak as a musician. And people were drawn, and then McKenna could, well, if he was under pressure playing it, he didn't show it. Because that lovely punchy driving rhythm that he had, you know, people were drawn to it. And it was there was an underlying pulse in McKenna's music too, a very subtle pulse. You know, it was like a heartbeat, you know, and a real buoyancy, Lorraine. A real buoyancy. But McKenna came from that mountain that McKenna was born and was alive with flute players that time. You know, people remember 7 or 8 flute players just gathering in a house just for the crack.
Amazing in just such a small area.
So, you know, McKenna didn't fall out of the clouds. You know, he was a result. He was a result of, you know, he was...
It was like Coleman went to America, but his brother stayed at home, and Jim Coleman was considered to be nearly, some would say, a better fiddle player than Michael Coleman. It's hard to believe that might have been the case, but we'll never know, I guess.
But Coleman then again didn't fall out of the sky either. He was a result of this fantastic fiddle tradition that had existed there. You know, pre-Coleman, pre his birth in 1891. You had great players like Glad O'Byrne's father, Phil O'Byrne. They were outstanding players.
Outstanding, that's right.
And there was John O'Dowd, and anyway, that's a whole new ball game. But these people didn't fall out of the sky. You know, they were created. They were, you know, they heard this in their mother's womb, this music, and then they had the musicality then to bring it out when they reached their prime themselves. You know. But what really amazed me, and I had a discussion with the great Peter Horton one night about this. How can, when Coleman and these fellas are playing in a studio, how can the, you know, it sounds like they're under no pressure at all, and they must have been under serious pressure. Like with the acoustic recording before 1925, it was completely a mechanical process. There was no electricity involved. You know, the louder you played, the deeper this thing cut out of the master disc, and these shavings are coming out all over the floor. And if you messed it up, the master was thrown away, and you know you could be told, okay, we'll give you a second chance. But if you messed it up the second time, you might get a third take on it and they'd make the record for you, but you wouldn't be asked back to the studio again because you were costing these people a fortune, like.
Yeah.
So how did McKenna and these people? They were producing music and it sounded so natural and they must have been under serious pressure.
Serious pressure.
But do you know what Peter Horden said? He said, if Coleman, he said, and McKenna could produce that in the studio, he said, I would have loved to have heard them beside their own fire.
Just in a
If
relaxed.
that's what they could do under pressure, you know.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We better play another few tunes.
Play another few tunes is right.
What do we do? Colonel Fraser's
Cornell Fraser's.
one of my favourite tunes.
Well,
And the Highland Skip. Tell me all about
Highland
it.
Skip. No, Liam, you talk about them.
No, I will not. I will.
Yeah.
I'll only sound silly now after listening to you talking about it
No,
because you're
you
far
won't
more
sound
knowledgeable.
silly. You won't sound silly.
But we'll do. I always Colonel Fraser's one of my favourite tunes, I suppose, over the years, and McKenna did a great version of it, and delighted to be playing John McKenna's actual flute, one of the flutes that he used way back in the recordings in the 20s. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. But we'll do two reels, the Colonel Fraser's and the Highland Skip.
Yeah.
All right?
No problem.
Here we go.
Take it away, Liam.
tunes. That second one, the Highland Skip, is it's also called the Boyne Hunt.
Yeah.
How, I wonder, do you know how it got that name, or you've never heard that, John?
Boyne Hunt, or the
Yes.
Highland Skip.
Well, both. Where are the? I
Don't
know
know.
the modern version is the Boyne Hunt, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The,
That's what most people
modern
know by.
name.
Yeah.
The version is very similar to the
It's
modern.
very, very similar.
The modern name is the Boyne
Yeah.
Hunt, yeah. But the interesting thing about that, McKenna recorded Colonel Fraser's solo. He didn't
So-
put
that's
the
right.
Highland Skip along with it. But,
Yes, yeah.
but it's a very interesting recording because it was recorded in December 1930. And, you know, we all know about the Wall Street crash. October 1929 initiated the Great Depression in America.
Yeah.
So in December 1930, when McKenna recorded Colonel Fraser's, you know, people were, you know, it was a severe depression in America at that time. McKenna was one of the few artists to have recorded during that period.
Right.
You know, Coleman or none of the boys recorded during that period. So it's interesting that McKenna recorded that in December 1930.
Yeah.
When you know, when the Great Depression was hitting America, you know, because all the recording studios had closed down because, you know, people were trying to survive, you know.
Yeah. Must have been a tough time.
But I love McKenna's verse. He was 50 years old when he recorded that.
Was he, right?
And the chances are, Liam, he recorded it on that flute.
Right.
Because he had that flute at that time.
Wow.
And there's a lovely, you can hear McKenna's pulse and that lovely underlying pulse in his music in that solo recording, you know.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's not, he's not driving it, it's subtle. It's just,
there's a rhythm in it.
It's like an undercurrent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's one of those great tunes I always think, you know.
Yeah.
Colonel Fraser's. It's like there's lots of great tunes, but that's one of the
Great
big
tune.
ones. You
Great
know.
tune. Duignan too, Packie
Yeah.
Duignan too he loved that tune.
It just suits the flute down to the ground, doesn't it?
does,
It's
does.
a real flute tune, you know.
Packie Duignan must have been hugely influenced by McKenna, of course.
Oh, he was, yeah. But Duignan had his own style now.
Oh, he had.
Mick Woods, another great flute player from Drumshanbo, he was closer to McKenna than Duignan in terms of style. Duignan was very individual.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, look at him. Of course, he was influenced by McKenna, and he grew up beside him up on the mountain there. You know, and McKenna was the man, but Duignan was a very individual player as well, and lovely little quirky versions of tunes, The Mouse in the Cupboard comes to mind when we talk about quirky versions of tunes that Duignan had.
Yeah.
But Mick Woods was a lot closer to McKenna's spirit and style than Duignan was, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was another great player, Mick Woods. You know, God be good to him.
Yeah.
He died in September 2019, but he recorded a fantastic album in 1978. It was a tribute to John McKenna, recorded on the Inter Cronin label, Brendan Mulcair's label, and Anne Conroy Burke, late Joe Burke's wife. Right. It was his sister Mary accompanied him on the guitar.
All right.
Mick Woods. It was beautiful. He was playing a Hawksy flat flute, and Mary Conroy. It was a lovely subtle accompaniment, you know, in the background.
Yeah.
Similar to Anne Conroy's accompaniment, you know, but a little bit different, but
Right.
yeah. So.
Great stuff.
Lorraine, you might introduce the next
Well, no,
one,
I think
will you?
we're going for a couple of jigs this time. The Gallant Boys of Tipperary into the Little Drummers. So I think that tune is an unusual version as well. It's more commonly known as the Butcher's March, isn't it?
That's right.
Even though it's a jig, but the second part is just a little bit different. I think you were saying that Joe Lackey Gallagher recorded the
that
same
version as well. Joe,
Yeah.
McKenna's the first part of the Three Little Drummers, aka the Butcher's March, is similar to today's version, but the second part, what you were talking about, is completely different.
Totally different.
And the only one that I know of that had that version was Joe Lackey Gallagher, a great fiddle player from outside Drumkeerdon. He was born now in 1918. He would have been a younger man than McKenna, but he had that exactly the same version on the second.
So it's definitely from that locality then.
Seems to be,
you know?
Seems to be. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll give
It's a nice
Let's
debate
go for them.
anyway.
It is. Yeah.
Nice second part.
It is.
Unusual.
It is surely. Let you introduce Lorraine there.
Right. Lorraine, you're going to try a few hornpipes.
I am.
The Sandlark followed by Lawson's
Yeah,
Favourite.
two of my favourite McKenna tunes.
Yeah.
When did you first hear McKenna's recordings, Lorraine?
Oh, well, do you know, much like you, I'd often heard his name, but I never actually got to hear recordings until I was in college in Dublin. And Paul McCartin, we were doing the trad course up there with Ballyfermot College, and Paul had the cassette, and he brought it in, and we got to hear some extracts from it.
Great.
No, yeah.
I still have the cassette at
Fabulous.
home. I haven't played it, and I'm afraid to put it into the old tape machine or
Yeah,
the ball.
I know.
I want to keep it as long as I can. It's still nearly shiny, you know. Take out the tape.
Yeah.
Nobody uses tapes anymore, but
No.
Yeah.
two great tunes there. Sure, give them a lash
right,
there.
okay.
Lovely tunes.
Lorraine, that
Yeah.
was very chirpy music,
Absolutely.
which totally reflects your personality.
Oh, well, now.
Two great tunes, two hard tunes.
Two hard tunes.
No easy finish there at all.
No bother to you,
Fantastic.
no bother to you, Lorraine. Two lovely tunes.
Two lovely tunes.
They're great tunes. They're lovely.
Recorded in a great flute duet by John McKenna and Eddie Meehan.
That's right.
Eddie Meehan, yeah.
Eddie Meehan was from. I tracked down myself and my great friend Gregory Daly tracked down Eddie Meehan's house one day. It's still standing.
Is it?
In a place called Kilrushater. It'd be
Where is that?
West Sligo, near Dromore West,
Okay.
near the Beach Bar. You know the
Oh,
Beach
I know
Bar?
the
Yeah.
Beach Bar, yeah.
Couldn't be far from the Beach Bar.
Right.
Lovely
Oh.
part of the country. That's
Okay.
where Eddie Meehan came from.
I never
He
heard
was,
that
in a,
town.
he was in a band with McKenna called the Rosaline Quartet.
Ah.
But they recorded some very famous duets together on the two flutes. The flute playing was that tight, you'd think it was one flute. But in fact it was two flutes, McKenna and Meehan.
Brilliant.
And that was one of the sets they recorded.
That's one of their sets, yeah.
That was-
1937, wasn't it? It was one of the
5th of May 1937. That
one
was
of their last
McKenna's
sets.
final recording
It was the
session.
actual final one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was still playing as good at that time. He was
Yeah.
57 years old
Yeah.
at that stage, but he was still playing great music.
God.
Fantastic. John, now you're not sick of all this flute talk, are you?
No, I'm quite happy. I'd stand in the snow to listen to Gilrane talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could be standing in it yet.
Will we try them barn dances? You know the.
Well, we had hailstones in May, John, so I wouldn't rule out snow.
Thank God, Liam, you put on that roof. She's looking good. We might try them the barn dances.
Oh, yeah.
The ballroom favourite.
Gorgeous.
There's an interest. An interest to look at. We keep it brief now about
Sure.
about the ballroom favourite. But these are two barn dances that McKenna recorded in November 1934, along with a great friend of his, Michael Gaffney. Michael Gaffney from Arigna. He was only about 3.5 miles from McKenna's birthplace. Now it's doubtful that they ever met each other in Ireland, because there was 16 years difference between them. Gaffney was only 8 years old when McKenna emigrated in 1904, but they teamed up in New York, and they recorded some great stuff together. In fact, Gaffney was one of the first people to record on the banjo. I think the first person was Mike Flanagan. I could be wrong,
Right.
but Flanagan was definitely one of the first. Mike Flanagan of the Flanagan Brothers.
Brothers, yeah.
But Michael Gaffney from Arigna would have been up there in certainly the top 2 or 3 people to record on the banjo, which was a relatively new instrument in Irish music at that time.
Would have been.
But they recorded these two barn dances in 1934, and they're called the Ballroom Favourite. The set is collectively known as the Ballroom Favourite, but it's very interesting that there was no published audio or manuscript sightings of these tunes before the McKenna recording in 1934. We're going to play them now. But there's 12 big tunes like that in the McKenna repertoire. The Sailor's Bonnet is one of them. Everybody associates the Sailor's Bonnet with the Coleman recording, but Coleman didn't record that until in around 1934.
Yeah.
McKenna beat it by 6 years. He recorded it around 28 or 29. I think it was 28, September 28 he recorded that. So McKenna was 100% responsible
For bringing
in a
it
duet recording with James Morrison for introducing the Sailor's
Yeah.
Bonnet to the mainstream repertoire. And there was 12 big tunes in the repertoire, 12 big tunes that everybody knows today.
Standards.
That were
yeah.
introduced. We can't say that McKenna composed them, but we can definitively say that his recording was responsible, 100% responsible, for introducing it into the mainstream repertoire. And these two barn dances we're going to play fall into that category.
So he could have made up the second tune in this. We don't know. It's quite possible.
There was no sight,
Yeah.
there was a lot of manuscripts on the go in 1934 when McKenna recorded
A
that.
lot of stuff, yeah.
But it didn't show up.
So we'll give them a lash.
We will. They're two great old barn dances.
They're fantastic.
Take it away, Liam.
Thank you.
talk a bit about the McKenna, one of McKenna's
Oh yes,
flutes
Liam.
itself. So
Now is the time. Will you play a solo, Liam,
I will.
on that very important instrument?
I'll play a quick couple of tunes on it, and we might talk about how it came to
Quick
be.
word about the tunes. The tunes are collectively. When McKenna recorded these tunes, he recorded them with a lovely fiddle player, a forgotten fiddler now, called Barney Conlon.
Barney Conlon.
Who was from the Giva area of Sligo. And he recorded them with McKenna. It was an acoustic recording. The tunes you're going to play were recorded by Conlon and McKenna. And collectively, McKenna and Conlon called them Judy Callahan's.
Judy Callahan's, yeah.
But in fact, the correct titles for them, the first one is called The Nightcap, and the second one is called The Maid at the Well. And they were published in the Dance Music of Ireland by that great man, Captain Francis O'Neill. He published that book, Dance Music of Ireland, in 1907 in Chicago. You know, today it's referred to as the Bible, O'Neill's 1001.
1001.
But the interesting thing about these tunes, the way they appear in that could be McKenna telling us. The way they appear in the Dance Music of Ireland, they're side by side in the Dance Music of Ireland. These tunes.
Right.
And that's exactly how they appear on the McKenna recording. They're not just taken anywhere in the book. They're side by side in the book. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That McKenna must have, or Conlon, whoever, they took them just as they were on the book, you know. So that's Judy Callahan's.
And they weren't, you know, before I got involved in this McKenna project, you wouldn't have heard them play that.
No.
Or
No,
have heard them
they're
play a bunch
beautiful
of
jigs.
sessions.
They're beautiful jigs,
We're
but
kind
they
of-
were published now, all
Yeah,
right.
they were published, yeah. But
And then, Liam, you're going to play these tunes on this most wonderful instrument.
I hope I do it justice now.
And Liam, will I just say a small word about
Please
the flute?
do, please do.
So people, this is John McKenna's flute. This was owned and played by John McKenna. And we're so lucky to have this flute.
Very.
And I've got to mention a very important man, John McAuliffe, who has passed away. And John McAuliffe
Only a couple of years
donated
ago.
that flute to the John McKenna Society, an Irish-American musician, a man called Moyvan in North Kerry. It was him that owned that flute. John McAuliffe's uncle, who bought that flute of John McKenna in the late 1930s. And when John heard about this project coming out of McKenna, he donated the flute to the McKenna Society. But the flute, it's a very interesting flute. Though unstamped, its provenance is 100% American. Well, we're pretty sure it's American.
99%.
The provenance of the flute.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's unstamped, but the design of it, and recent research points to the workshop of two people, Asa Hopkins or his partner, Jabez McCall Camp, who were based in Litchfield in Connecticut in around 1829 to 1839. So that's what we think that's the date.
Around
of the
that
flute.
time, yeah.
In around the 1830s, let's call it.
Now, do we
So
know why
we're
they
so-
put their
we're
names
so-
on it?
Sorry?
Why didn't they put their names on
Don't
it? I
know.
wonder.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't
There's
know.
no maker's name on
But
it.
the
at all.
ribbed burden, Liam, if you
Yeah,
could point to
here.
the ribbed burden,
Yeah.
is very distinctive. And the ivory head as well. And it's a caucus wood body with an ivory head. The head came out of an elephant's tusk. You know, so it's a it's a beautiful instrument, as well as being a most historic instrument now because of the because of the people that owned it before the John McKenna
Fantastic.
Society. And Liam, not to ramble on and on, but
No,
you
you're
were bringing
right.
out a great album now.
I am. I got just a quick story beyond that. It was around 2017 or 2018 when I was at the McKenna weekend, and I think we were playing a session in Davits, and Sean, you brought this flute in, and I hadn't seen it before that, I don't think. And I was saying, Jesus, where did you get that? He says, that's one of McKenna's flutes, and we were all trying it. Do you remember in Davits that day we all tried it out? And I tried a few tunes on it, got a fairly good sound off it. I didn't think any more about it, and I think the following year we came back in 2018, and I played a couple of sessions again, and you brought it along for a play to you, and I just came up with the idea that I might try and record an old album on it at some point, and we just managed to get in last February 2020 up in McKenna's house with myself and Kevin Breheny on the piano, and Dave Sheridan recorded it. It was great to record it in the house just before the pandemic started, so we were lucky to get in. I had intended to try and record everything that he did, but we got halfway, got about 18 tracks done. We didn't get back to the second half, obviously, because of the restrictions, but we might get back to that in some future point. But hope to have the album out in June or July of this year.
That's
so
what I was just going to say. You're doing a launch.
Doing the launch, hopefully it'll be a kind of a virtual online, but hope to do it up at the house and play a few tunes up there and have a bit of a hoolie. It's great. It's great to I mean, I'm privileged to be getting a chance to play this instrument, and hopefully a lot more people will try it out as well.
Liam,
as time
effectively,
goes
you're
along.
playing McKenna's repertoire on McKenna's flute, recorded in McKenna's house.
Yeah, and I
And
think
there's one man I'm thinking of right now, and it's John McAuliffe. God be good to John.
I know.
John, he won't be around to see that being.
He only passed
lost.
in 2019, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago now.
Yeah, that's a pity.
But it was a wonderful gesture to donate. That was that was his that had been passed down through his family from McKenna to his uncle and down to him, and he passed it graciously on to the McKenna Society for good, forever. It was a wonderful gesture,
Fantastic.
And John got in touch with us, through
After hearing the
through
book
the
from the
offices
mountain.
of Hammy Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Hammy Hamilton restored that flute. He
see
did a
the crack
fantastic
there.
job.
Yeah.
There was a few minor repairs to be done on it. Well, there was a crack on the head, which was a big job.
Yeah.
But Hammy Hamilton deserves a worthy mention here
Yeah,
too.
he
Absolutely,
does.
he did a great job.
He's a big part of the story too.
Big part of the story is right. He's
Yeah.
fantastic, great flute maker and restorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a great job on it.
Yeah.
No, I'll try Jude Callens. I think these were recorded in 1922, were they?
Yeah,
Do you remember?
in or around, yeah.
So almost
Yeah.
100 years ago.
An acoustic recording made without electricity.
Fantastic.
Gorgeous.
Lovely.
Liam,
Well, John.
gorgeous.
Stuff white.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Money hanging on.
Oh, Jesus, aren't we all?
God, it's a beautiful flute.
It
You're
is.
getting a real warmth out of it, you know.
It's getting a good
and
sound
punch
now. I
as well,
mean, it's hard to
glass.
believe it might have been sitting in an attic somewhere
I
for
know.
30 years or more
It was
without ever being
25.
played.
John McAuliffe told me
You know.
25 years anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a testament to the way these flutes were made. I mean, geez,
Yeah.
they last. I mean, if it was made in 1830, it's 190 years old, you know, and it'll be around for another 190.
And the body didn't require any work.
No.
Hammy might have tightened up the keys a little bit with the pads and that, but it was just the crack on the ivory head that was the main problem
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, that was the
It's
main
amazing,
thing.
Of
really.
course, you have ivory sitting on a metal rim, so
Yeah.
two different materials.
That's
trying to
right.
do,
That's
you know.
right. No, it's fantastic, Alan. It's great. I'm delighted to have get a chance to record on it. It's all about the instrument, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's not going to be locked up in a case in a museum.
No, we'll keep her lit now for as long as we can.
Keep the blade down.
Yeah. But I
Don't
see,
worry
I
about
see,
the top side. Go straight into the
I see
subside.
a landlord wandering around there with a power on.
The Boogle.
Well, I might
Young Liam.
Mr. Liam Cryan.
You come in for a tune.
Come in.
How are you doing?
How are you?
Liam, you're very
Great.
welcome.
This is lovely stuff.
You're very welcome, Liam.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Liam Cryan's chalk hole.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, no better place in the world.
These walls could talk, Liam.
Stop.
These walls could talk, we'd have to shoot them.
They're gorgeous, isn't it?
You have all the recordings, haven't you? Everything.
Oh, near enough now, near enough at this stage.
How have you been holding up? Good.
Oh, great. It'd be great to get back now, you know.
Yeah.
Isn't it just?
But, sure, you miss the music probably more than anything, you know.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
good,
hugely.
The music
That's for
and the
sure.
crowd.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's hard to believe it'll be nearly 2 years since we played a tune,
Shocker.
isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, you never would have believed it if someone said it a few years
No,
ago.
she's
No,
not.
we
No.
wouldn't
No.
go around with masks and
Yeah.
social distance. And Seamus O'Rourke,
Yeah.
he fairly captured it, didn't he?
That's for sure. Yeah. It's,
Would you like jigs or jigs?
whatever you like, don't you? If you're jigs,
Liam got a great schooling in the music. You all know about that. Going around with Packie, Duignan and Kieran Emmett and these legendary figures. Yeah.
And the last
That was the best school of music that anyone could ever
The last
enter.
Mohawks.
Yeah. And you haven't even reached your prime yet.
I tell you.
There's a lot of stories there, I'd say.
The Packie Duignan Summer School.
I know you were well blooded.
That was a
It was a long summer.
period. That was a long summer. That summer. Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, there were great times.
Absolutely.
Duignan was a great bit of work. You know?
Oh, serious.
Ah, he was. He was a lovely fella.
Serious.
Yeah.
Very smart fella.
Very smart man and a great flute player. And he's very patient with kids and
Yeah.
youngsters and feel like me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he'd never treat you any different than anyone else at the table.
Yeah.
They were one of the lads.
Yeah.
I was maybe 40 or 50 at the time.
Yeah.
You'd still be one of the lads, you know?
Yeah. That was a great story you told about when the Joe Mooney Summer School came out first. Packie died in, of course, January 1992. 1992. He was almost 70.
Yeah.
69 and a half, let's say. And the Joe Mooney Summer School started in 89. So he lived to see 89, 1991, 3 Joe Mooney Summer Schools. Packie did.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you told a great story about all these great flute players from around the world sitting in with Packie at a
That's
session,
right.
and they were all comparing flutes. And
That's right.
mine is a Rudel and Rose, and oh, what's yours? Oh, mine is a Wild, and what's yours? Oh, mine is whatever, you know, a Potter, and what's yours, Packie? Oh, big God, says Packie. Mine is a Rally.
A rally, yeah.
That's a bike, you know.
He had a bad flute at the time.
He had
All
a
mask
bad
and tape and everything.
Mine is a Rally.
That's what he says. And he took it up then and played a tune that none of them knew, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he left it in on his own.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Cool.
character.
Yeah, he's great.
We'll try a couple of
Smile.
tunes.
Yeah.
Couple of jigs, I think. What about the Kid on the Mountain?
The Kid on the Mountain.
Arigna's.
The first one is a slip jig.
The Kid on the Mountain.
Slip jig. And then
Yeah.
we're going into the Arigna's Green Veil. Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Thank
the time you played that first one with Duignan.
Think about Duignan in my head when you're They're deadly.
One of the best tunes.
He never died, huh?
No, he'll never die.
No. Music around.
No,
That's the thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Gregory Daly was telling me a great story about him. They were in Carrick here. They were in Newer House and they were in a few different houses. And they went out to the sister's house out in Drumkieran for the dinner. It was on a Sunday evening. They had a few drinks on them. And of course, the sister wasn't that happy, you know, that they just landed in without ringing, you know. It was probably a full house and whatever. And there was a kind of a quietness came at the dinner table when they were having the dinner. And some child up in Dublin had swallowed a magnet and they were the child was in intensive care. Swallowed a nail. And they were in intensive care, and it was kind of on the news, you know, about this freak accident. And they were saying, wasn't it awful sad about the girl and the swallowing the nail and all of that? And then there was a kind of a pause, and Duignan said, isn't it a holy terror that nobody thought of a magnet? You know, to try and break the ice.
Yeah.
It's great.
He was very quick-witted.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get people as much like that anymore now. It's gas, isn't it? Different time.
Funny times.
Yeah.
Some characters. We're nearly at the end, are we?
Yeah.
Have we to do one more tune or one more set?
Yeah.
Well, sure.
One more?
Great.
Sure.
Introduce these ones.
Lorraine, yeah, you.
Well, I know that this last couple, I know that the Duke of Leinster is one of your personal favourites, isn't it, John? Of McKenna's, yeah. So that's the first Into the Rollicking Irishman.
That's right,
So, yeah, two fine McKenna tunes to finish up on.
Two great reels.
Yeah. So that's it.
You give them a lash.
Yeah.
You'll stay on for this one, I will.
Find
No
us
point.
Yeah.
No point in going now.
Do.
You can point the flute down if he's getting too loud, Sean.
Pointed that way.
If I start turning this way, you're in trouble.
Oh, man.
1, 2, 3.
Fantastic.
Out now. Time to go.
Right, folks. Time, please, ladies and gentlemen.
I never heard you saying it. I never heard you saying it.